everything's coming up greener.
Here's Harold Matthews. He is
The Garden Doctor. The Garden Doctor.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Garden Doctor Show with
Hello.
Mr. and Mrs. Garden Doctor right here. I'm the Mr., she's the Mrs.
Here.
And we're here. You know, I bet everybody else is pig wrestling.
You think?
I guess so.
I've heard about it, yes.
But if you happen to be home during our live show, like we did last month, and I have to apologize to the people that I didn't get to.
He has not called anybody back or come to visit.
But I will be doing that. There was some health issues that we had in the family, and plus my own personal. And so all of that stuff is under control now. Just recently, well, except for this.
Well,
and I'm working on that Wednesday.
A few things.
So, but we're doing good, and we want to extend that opportunity one more time. If you call in during the live show, leave your name and phone number and information back in the office back there with all of the hordes of people that we have back there in our support crew, and they will write down the information, and I will come to your house and do an assessment of your home at no charge whatsoever, no obligation. I'm retired. I'm really not looking for
And
work
before
to do.
winter, hopefully, right?
I will do it
Okay.
here. I'll do it before deer season starts. That's a
right.
guarantee because I wrap things up before that. But what I will be doing is assessing the property, looking at the trees that you already have, the shrubs that you already have, the lawn, everything that you already have, and seeing what can be done to maintain it or to improve it, answer any questions that
And
you
of
might
course,
have.
drainage and slope and all
I
those
am
things.
very, very, very big on drainage. I want slope away from the house. I'll talk to you about reducing your heating bill, any moisture that you may have in the
And
crawl
just tell you
space.
things that you can do to improve.
We'll check the gutter system out. We'll check to see if the volume of water that comes off the roof is if it's sufficient equipment that you have
And
there.
he's not trying to sell you anything.
I'm
no
not
charge.
into sales whatsoever.
He just likes to visit, and he might as well talk about your stuff while he's there visiting.
And
so.
we will do this all for free. Also,
All right.
if you have a question for the Garden Doctor, I'd be more than happy to answer it.
And I believe we have
We
a
are
caller
live.
now. We have Donna on the phone. Hello, Donna.
Hi,
Hi.
I have a question. I have this weed that is in my garden, in my flower beds, and it looks like a morning glory vine.
Yes.
And how can I get rid of it?
I have a bunch of those too.
Yeah. Morning Glory Vine has become very, very prolific. There are some weeds that have been given an extra boost by our use of herbicides. Mare's tail comes to mind. We're seeing it everywhere. I can't think. There's 2 or 3 other weeds that are very prominent, and one of them is morning glory vine. Now, the morning glory vine, even though it's attractive, is really a nuisance because
Got
it
that right.
carpets over the top. And our beans, for example,
Took
we have
over
to,
my beans.
We have to literally lift up the morning
The
glory
whole
vine
plant. And
to look underneath to find the beans because we just have a
And
problem.
it grows so fast, it just takes over in no time.
The only control that is currently available that will work is if you use a wipe because you can't really spray. It's down inside all of your vegetable plants and everything.
And I just try to break them off every time I find them and break them off as close to the bottom as I can and try to pull the vine off. It's terrible.
If you can identify it and if you can get it when it's young, and by that I mean we try to prune it off and let a new growth come out, a short growth. And this also works for poison ivy, by the way, and for all of the other vining crops that you're trying to rid yourself of. Cut them off as close as you can. Identify them. We put a little stake there that's a little wooden stake, like a popsicle stick type thing, and mark it. And when that grows out to about 8 or 10 leaves, then you take a plastic glove, like a Playtex glove, and put a cloth glove over that, and just dip your fingers in the proper concentration of an herbicide, Roundup, and I do not use the ready mixed.
Use the concentrate.
Unless you have a very small yard, the concentrate will last you forever and ever.
Well, it's far more expensive, the ready mix.
Yeah,
Right.
it is. And use the concentrate, and then you can mix the proper concentration for what it is you're killing. It's much more, of course, for poison ivy, and even the morning glory vine requires an additional. It's 6 ounces to a gallon, I think. It goes up to 8 ounces to a gallon for the poison ivy. But anyway, so you dip your fingers in there when these new foliage come out, and you just wipe it on those, and it will kill the root, and it will not kill the vegetable plants or negatively affect them.
See, that way instead. Oh, sorry.
However, you have to be very, very careful. Don't put a surplus. You want just enough on your hand. Wring your hand out so that you're not leaching that Roundup into the soil, because it will have a negative effect on any soft stemmed plant, such as tomatoes, beans, all of that stuff. So be very, very careful.
So you're
now,
just touching the foliage, and it says you just need to lightly
wipe it.
moisten it, and you'll moisten, what is it, 75 or 80% of, not every single
Right.
leaf, but most of it
Right.
that you can, and you can use a little rag or paper towel, couldn't you, I guess?
yes.
Something like
Now,
that.
to avoid that next year, if you will take that same area, cover it with a sheet, first till it, and that way you're bringing everything to the surface that you want on the surface. Till the ground, and I like to do this in February or March if at all possible. Cover the ground with clear plastic. That'll warm the ground up. It'll cause the morning glory to germinate. Once the morning glory germinates, grows 2 or 3 inches, other weeds grow, bad insects come up, then you take the cover off when it's going to freeze, and you will naturally kill and control all of the noxious material that's in that soil in your garden, and you won't have to do the killing out because you're doing it on a semi-natural basis. You're greenhousing it to warm it up, and then you're allowing it to freeze, or you're greenhousing it to warm it up, and if you prefer, because right now you have nothing out there, you can spray it.
Then you can spray.
You can spray it with a product. Yeah.
So that won't hurt the plants next year then?
No, it won't. There is a time frame. You have to look on the product that you're using, and there's, since Roundup has lost their patent here, I think last year,
Yeah, there's
it's available
generic now.
everywhere. So the generic variety is the same thing. Just look at the contents. Gypso.
You're asking the wrong person.
I can't.
The active ingredient
Yeah,
that's
but look
in
for
Roundup.
the concentration of active ingredient, and they have it available for half the price of the name brand. So.
Now, if you pull the morning glory like you would pull a weed, have you eradicated that weed?
Probably
or
not,
there's
because
more
the root
underground, the roots?
structure
Okay.
of a morning glory is almost as aggressive as its top.
Wow.
And that's why we pull it and back it comes. We pull it and back
Yeah,
it comes. Yeah,
sure do.
But
Yeah,
it
that's
is,
ready
it
to go
is,
to China.
it is. Yeah, oh, they're terrible. It is advantageous for you to cut the stem off, because then all the vine dies.
Yeah.
And it doesn't reseed. So get rid of those blossoms anywhere you see them. Cut them off so that they don't go to seed.
Okay.
It's a problem that we're having throughout any farm country, and so we're that's about the best advice I can get you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you,
We
Donna.
sincerely appreciate it.
Okay. Looking forward to
Thank you.
We have another
Appreciate it.
caller, and you're on the air with the Garden Doctor. What can we do for you?
Yes, sir. First of all, we love to watch your show, me and my husband. And we have got, I think they call it chickweed, that's growing in between. We've got like cement blocks, and I've got flowers on the inside, and it's real pretty. But I'm constantly out there pulling the weeds. And I think I've heard you say that's probably called chickweed. And
Chickweed.
I'd like to find out how I can get rid of this.
Well, there is a specific product that kills chickweed. It is targeted for the chickweed. You can. It kills very well, by the way, with hot water. Scalding hot water in a teapot. Just take it out and pour it on. Chickweed is killed quite readily.
Oh,
Now, chickweed is also an edible weed. So, and it makes a delicious chickweed
Well,
salad.
she does not want a salad. She wants it out of her flowers and
The
veggies.
problem with chickweed, you pull it and you never get the root. You never, ever get the root. the same process that I suggested the previous lady use, where you put a plastic glove on, then a cloth glove, dip your fingers in there and wipe the chickweed, and be careful not to wipe anything else, is extremely effective. It targets it. It's a little bit of a nuisance, but you're getting rid of the mother plant, if you will, because if chickweed is this big around, one day, then its roots, its rhizomes grow out, and it just continues to grow. And if it runs into a brick or something, it goes under that and sprouts again. It's very prolific. But
Now,
if you can kill the mother plant,
if you use that, say Roundup or whatever, on with a glove and that plant, will it kill the whole root as well?
yes, it's translocated down into the root structure, and the whole plant dies. And there are new products on the market that, if you read on the label, it'll say it kills within 12 hours or kills within 24 hours. Numerous products on the market. But you have to be careful when you're reading the label to read it very carefully, because there is a product that will kill for the entire year, but it also will have an effect on the neighboring plants. So you wouldn't want to use that in your garden or in where you're going to be growing annuals, because you can get some side effects from that you really don't want. So when you buy the product, go for the Roundup or Roundup-like material, and use the glove. You can use a targeted spray too. They make a new foam spray where it's very targeted, and that only kills what it foams on. It's a quite good product. Don't use it on a windy day, but it does a very, very nice job. So, but that's about all I can tell you. But there is an actual chickweed killer. But it's not necessary to get that. Now with the products that are on the market, there's some out there that kill everything. Now remember, when it says non-selective, that's what it means. Anything it touches, it's going to die. Thank you very much for your call. We sincerely appreciate it.
Now, if you're going to leave your name and address or number with the nice people at the counter here, he'll come out and see you when he gets time.
Yeah, we are offering that during this live show, a free consultation on everything and anything in your yard. We also wanted to put a shout out to, is there anything else for you, ma'am?
That's it, sir. I thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you for
and
calling.
we really enjoy your call.
I wanted to say hello today to, I ran into a nice woman today at the Coumadin Clinic down at Fayette Memorial Hospital. I was there with my son, David, today, and everything is working out real well with him with his heart valve transplant and everything. But she asked me if I was the lady on the TV show with the garden doctor, and I told her yes, and she said she likes the show, and she wanted to make sure she got, I didn't even know what time it started. You'd think I would remember by now.
We haven't
she
been
said
doing
she
it very
wanted to
long.
make sure she was home and to watch the show. I just wanted to say thank you very much. We
If
do
you're at
appreciate
home
that.
watching the show right now, give us a call. Also, I just ran up to Wally World up there, and I was looking around to see what plants were on sale, because I got a friend of mine that has a party coming up, and he wanted me to get him some color. And while I was there, a lady says, "Oh, hey," and if she's out and about there, give us a call, give us a shout.
And that was tonight, right
that
before
was
the
tonight,
show,
yeah,
right?
just a little while ago. And she said, "Oh, I love the show, and I should be home in time to watch it." She was asking about she wanted a hardy hibiscus or a
Ooh, nice
mandevilla.
plant. You know how I love those.
She picked up a mandevilla, and she said, "Is this thing going to
It's a
come
tropical,
back?" And I said, "No."
It's beautiful,
And
but it's tropical.
Then she picked up a non-hardy hibiscus, and I said, "No, that's also not going to come back." And we do have we're going to show a little later. I hope there's some hibiscus
But I
on
wanted to
there.
ask you about something I heard on the radio today. Actually, as you know, we
Oh,
have
I
a
love
new new radio station here in
Mike
Connorsville.
Peacock and, my old buddy.
106.9. They
Yeah.
play a lot of classic rock, that kind of thing. And they talked about a story that I went home and did some research on
Hey,
about the peach crop in Indiana this year. How the peaches were hit really hard by this cold winter that we had, and how a lot of these places that sell peaches and whatnot have brought in peaches from Georgia to sell at their stand, and also the apples are taking a hit too as well, not quite as bad as the peaches. And I did do some research on that. I was not aware of this, and I had talked to my husband about this, that every degree that we went below 10 degrees, took down about 10% of our peach trees, our peach crop, and a peach crop, not the trees. And then a lot of the trees it killed. And then, of course, the ones that even look like they're alive are going to make it if they have been damaged by the winter are probably going to die over the next couple of years.
That's true of many of the plants. You can
So this
drive
winter-
around Connorsville and there is death everywhere.
A lot of our plants, our roses didn't come back. Several things didn't come back.
Most of our roses came back. You mean those ones that were in the elevated beds?
Yeah, that one that I
Yeah,
yanked out.
only-
Okay, yeah.
Only one didn't come back. I've got about 40 roses in the yard, and one didn't come back. The trick to carrying over plants, all of our butterfly bushes, by the way, came back.
Yeah, I was surprised.
And
at
in
that.
many places, that's not been the case. The trick to making plants more durable for the winter is making sure they don't go into the winter dry. They do not like to be dry when they go into the winter, with very, very few exceptions.
Well, the peach especially, our peach tree has no fruit on it whatsoever, and we had some lovely peaches last year, but
Yeah.
also they talked about the tree itself, the wood is not as durable
it's a softer
as the
wood.
apples.
This is really the north end of its range, and it used to be that we were
You couldn't grow
advised
them
not
here?
to grow
Okay.
peaches. And we were just talking about my favorite mimosa.
Well,
over
that's
here.
what I wanted to ask, because he was naming off the trees that the wood is not as resistant to cold weather, and one of them is the mimosa tree that is on 8th and Grand.
8th and Grand
It's
is
got
one,
a
and then
ferny leaf. It's a big, tall tree right in the curb strip, planted with a big ferny leaf, and doesn't
then
make a
there's
purple
another one
blossom.
up by where Dom's Dairy Drive-Thru
There
thing
on
is. There.
21st and
Is
Grand?
that 21st?
Yes.
You turn left there off Grand, and it's right at the house on the corner on the right. They've got like 3 of them.
Well, you
I haven't
listed
been up
that
and
off.
checked in
You had
those.
told me the mimosa's a softer wood, less
Yes.
durable. And I said, well, how about the mimosa that you love? And so we drove by and took a look at it to make sure. And it
That
is
one
green
looks
up.
very, very good. It looks in really good health. It must have been in a protected area.
And then my
that's-
next question was, if you love that tree so much, why do we not have one in our
'cause
yard?
you never asked for one.
I asked you for a
Anything you asked for,
magnolia.
I
You
get.
got me a magnolia.
You didn't say, get me a mimosa. You tell me that
All
now.
right, get me a mimosa, honey,
gonna get
please,
her a
because it
mimosa.
reminds me of the Royal Poinciana in Florida, and I believe they are related.
They are?
The Royal Poinciana is a red foliage, and they put off the big green, the big long seed pods, and they have the green
Yeah.
ferny-looking foliage. So
They're-
yes, it reminds me a lot of that. I had one in my yard. So
I think they're third cousins twice
well, I
removed.
now would like to have a mimosa.
All right, well, I
All
will
right,
get you
put it
a
on the list. I'm
mimosa.
writing it down. Get a note.
I was fascinated, though, to find out that much of our crop, because we weren't here last winter, we were in
Yes.
New Hampshire. Much of the temperature that you all suffered down here, which we had,
It was worse here than in New England for most of the winter.
yeah, when we were watching the weather,
It was
just
terrible.
It was unbelievable.
You guys got hit hard.
Now, there are apple trees in New England that grow up on top of the mountains in areas where they get a foot of snow before we get any snow right
Yeah.
in the valley. We can see the snow. And there's big apple orchards up there that are 150 to 220 years old. And they still produce apples, but they are Northern District, even some one of them
Specifically
called, yeah,
in the
North
Northern
Star.
Spire, or-
So they produce their blossom much later. Now there are peach trees also that will bloom much later. They've been hybrid for that purpose, but they haven't figured out how to hybrid more durability into the tree itself.
Well, the problem they said with the apples here in Indiana was they got off to a good start in spring. They said what we call a balmy spring, but then we got that freeze in April, and that damaged all the buds, which would have been our future fruit. But then we talked about where you can, to check the peaches, they cut into the bud way back early, and they cut into it, and if it's brown inside, that's considered that tree will not produce fruit. They will be non-viable. If they cut into that bud and it's green, it's going to produce fruit.
Right.
And they sample, like of all the trees in the orchard, they sample to see what kind of result they're going to expect.
Now we're losing a lot of orchards in Indiana because they've been hit hard. We've had drought after drought after drought. We've had hard winters. We've had dry winters. We've had some pretty hard hits, and a lot of these orchards are very small, and they're
And family
dependent
businesses.
upon producing every year. They have to pay for their equipment and everything else. And now I want to remind you that during the show, if you call in during the show, and if you want to have a free landscape consultation, I'll help you design your new landscape. I'll help you talk about all of the stuff that you have in your yard.
And he's
answer
big
any
into
questions.
helping you preserve your home, the foundation, the runoff from the gutters, the ground slope. That is one of his main interests when looking at any landscape job is preserving your home.
I want to improve the living environment as much as we can, and then complement it as in the direction that you would like it to be. Now, you might say, well, I'd like to have a rose over here. And I can tell you if a rose will grow there with no maintenance, or if you're going to have to maintain it, and why you should or should not grow a rose there. And if you have a specific list of plants that you would like to use, most of the time they can be incorporated. Or if not, I can suggest plants that are like what you are interested in, will have the same effect, but they may be a better plant for that particular environment. So if you call in during the live show just tonight until 8 o'clock, when is our show?
It's 7 o'clock. Is it the fourth Monday or the third
It's
Monday?
the fourth Monday.
The fourth
For
Monday.
crying out
Okay.
loud.
Well, I can't keep track.
And-
It's only been 4 years.
But if you call in during the live show tonight, right now, and give your
Well,
name and
speaking
phone
of
number back
weeds,
in there.
I have a quotation. I was looking on the internet, of
I will
course,
come out for free.
for silly things. And it says a weed is a plant that has mastered every survival skill except for learning how to grow in rows.
I like that.
You
Very
like
well.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. And I have seen weeds that were tricky enough where the fellas that were helping me in the past, and even an occasional lady, would pull every one of the perennials and leave the weeds. leave a beautiful bed of weeds and have a pile of perennials. Because the perennial can oftentimes look like a weed.
It looks very weedy in
Yeah.
the spring. Many of the ones that I end
Look
up
at my
pulling.
globe thistles that I love
know,
so
yeah.
much. They come in yellow or
And they
purple.
look weedy.
And they are beautiful, but they are a thistle. They're in the thistle family.
Weeds are perennials, and I've told you before, I can remember as a kid pulling weeds with my mother, and I said, Mom, how do you know which ones are weeds? She says, well, weeds are anything that we don't want in this bed. Oh, that didn't really help me a whole lot, but now it kind of makes sense.
And sometimes I have to go around, I take a little can of paint and I spray what I want them to pull, and then I tell them don't pull anything unless it's painted. But if you don't tell them that again, sometimes they leave what's painted and they,
Oh,
so, yeah.
I see.
We
Well,
have
if you
had
like
some
that
issues.
quote, then you're going to love this, okay? What do you get if you cross a four-leaf clover with poison ivy?
A four-leaf clover with, I don't know.
You get a rash of good luck.
Oh my God.
know, I
That's,
know.
your dad would be proud of you.
That's a daddy joke right there,
Your
I'm
dad would
telling
be-
you. Okay.
John, when we came in tonight, he says, I've got something I've got to show you.
That's
And
a scary,
this
actually.
Is just, yeah, it's fascinating. and
Google
scary.
Earth, okay. and
No, this is Google Road or Google GPS
Google Maps
or some
or
silliness
something.
like that. And he brings me this picture of me standing beside my truck. Hey,
Well, he
somebody's
said he was
spying on
looking
me.
for you.
What the heck? But he just searched.
It's a picture of him on the side of the road
It's-
from, what, a year ago? It must be Fred is in there, the guy who used to work
Yep.
with you there.
Yep.
Hey, Fred, if you're watching, I haven't talked to you in a
gang.
long time.
Actually, I think Fred's mother-in-law watches us.
Yep,
on a-
yeah.
on a
And
regular
Fred is a
basis.
new grandpa, he and his wife, so
Oh,
they
yeah,
must
yeah.
be enjoying that.
Yep.
But yep, there's you and Fred.
We still have our grandson here visiting. And,
Yes, James is here.
James, what's his middle name?
His middle name is David.
Ah,
After
James
his father,
David,
yes.
is here, and we want to
Visiting
say
his father.
hi to James,
Hi,
but he didn't
James.
want to come to the show.
And hi, Rosalind. They're actually at the fair watching pig wrestling.
I think that maybe that's Mike Peacock is wrestling. I think I saw John sneak out too. Maybe they've got a tag team.
Well,
or something.
they said you could put together 4-man teams
There
for
you go.
$40, and I tried to talk you guys into it, but David, after his heart surgery, thought, well, maybe he's not quite up to that yet, but
Yeah.
he's here, and his son James is here from Rhode Island. We're trying to show him a good time, so something unusual he's never seen before in the city.
No, from
pig
the city.
wrestling.
Yeah, well, he hasn't seen a pig for crying out loud, unless it's laying in
Well, we took him to Wally World. He had never played goofy golf before. He had never been in a go-kart before, and had never been to an arcade with video games, which I found hard to believe.
They've raised this child in the basement.
but apparently, they
He's
let
been
him out.
chained,
Chained
so-
up. Well, anyway, we have some questions.
Oh,
actually,
we have
that,
questions. And again, another lady that I want to give a shout out to, she stopped me. I was standing in the line at the Village Pantry.
Yeah, we enjoy that.
And she kept asking me a question. I stepped out of line and I said, listen, just call into the show. She says, oh my goodness, no.
Don't be scared.
What an aversion to call. Just call me. Call me here at the show. I won't embarrass you at all. Well, yes, I
No,
will,
he
but
saves that
call
for me.
anyway.
Don't
Call
worry.
me anyway. Go ahead.
All right, we have some questions. How do zucchini get so big so fast?
You know,
I would like
really,
to know.
I really have studied this
Because if you blink, they're, you know.
my wife goes out in the garden.
my
She
gosh.
says, I've picked all
I'm
the zucchini.
sweating. I've got baskets and bags full of
Wheelbarrow.
zucchini. I
She
picked
says,
them all.
I picked them all. I picked them clean. I walked out and I looked down,
He says,
and there
I
was a
think,
zucchini this big around.
I think you missed one. It's like this.
But the reason is because of the color, and I'll get back to that in a minute. We have a caller.
Well, hello.
Yes. Hello, you're on the air with the Garden Doctor. What can we do for you, please?
Well, hello, Doctor. I
Hello.
put out a few tomato plants at my little garden here in the backyard.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And they look terrible. The leaves are just dying off of it.
Are they dying from the bottom up?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Do you smoke cigarettes?
Do I do what?
Do you smoke?
Oh, it's been years and years.
You haven't smoked for years? Does anybody that is handling those tomatoes smoke?
No.
He
Okay.
gets on me for smoking in the garden, something about smoking around the tomato plants.
Yeah,
but
there-
if it's not that,
Yeah,
then
there is a disease, and it comes directly from tobacco, and tobacco and tomatoes are definitely non-compatible. The tobacco mosaic disease will wipe out
I
the
call
foliage.
it nicotinitis, but that's not it. But
Tobacco
okay, if it's
mosaic.
not that,
But
then
if it's not that, then I think what it is a natural occurring thing from this cooler temperature that we've experienced this year, because tomatoes are, like peppers, are a hot weather crop. They like it out in the desert, out in a much more arid, hot environment. And because they're not getting that, we're getting a lot of the leaves at the bottom dying up because we're getting tremendous growth at the top. It's all leggy, and I've been to a couple of gardens, including my own, where the tomatoes are growing a foot and a half a week.
do you have tomatoes?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, they're very small tomatoes, just a little bit bigger than a golf ball almost, you know.
Yeah. Now, are
but,
they
seems like
good
the
ones?
whole plant is dying. You know, it's just a stalk sticking up there with tomatoes on it.
But there are green leaves at the top, are there?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some, yeah.
Okay.
Some.
Have you fertilized the plant?
Well, not since I put them out.
Okay. I would strongly recommend that I don't care if it's Miracle Grow, Rapid Grow, I don't care if it says tomatoes or flowers, it doesn't matter. There is some benefit to the right number sequence, nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, but if you've got
Any
fertilizer
fertilizer works.
laying around, they need a shot of fertilizer. What is happening this year is we have spring growing conditions in the summer. And the plants are so unaccustomed to that they're doing some pretty strange things. And the diseases love cold and damp. So we have the diseases are taking a hold. Now, I have tomato plants that are 6.5 to 7 foot tall, 8 foot tall even.
Some of them are huge.
And they've got giant tomatoes on them, and there's not a leaf up to halfway,
weird.
perhaps, until the whole top.
And then he
But-
said they're getting sunburnt because the tops are cracking
The
and
tomato
brown
itself.
because there's no leaves
Right.
covering them.
So I believe that what you've got there is a disease. The only way you can control that, there is a product that they sell now that it says on it safe. You want to use one that is organic, and there are two places in town that I have asked to get in products that would be organic to apply to your vegetables at this time of the year.
You're close to eating time.
And so you go in, you ask for organics, the new store up there, what is it called? Tractor Supply.
Yep.
Gilman's, and we used to have it at the feed store. We've lost the
yeah, another
Fayette feed.
business gone. Wow.
And they had to retire because of the health and so forth. But this is a great product. It has neem oil in it, and it also has a disease control. Pick your fruit. If there's any fruit that is going to be edible in the next week, pick that fruit. If not, go ahead and spray it because this only lasts for about 7 days. But it will
I believe these plants are just they're gone.
Are they
I don't
gone?
think there's any
Oh, okay.
I don't
way
know.
of saving them.
Let me tell you something else that I'm doing right now. I'm taking the suckers out of my plants. You know, the little growth that comes in the middle of the branches.
Yeah.
I'm pinching the suckers out of my tomato plants, and I'm starting new tomato plants. Because right now, if you put them in the ground, you will have tomatoes right up through until September.
Yeah, he always starts a second round of tomatoes
I
and
always start
cucumbers.
it the last week of July is the best time to start tomato plants.
Now you can't buy any plants
Yes,
anymore,
I
can you?
saw
Oh.
plants. I just saw them yesterday, I think, in a closeout sale.
And maybe down at used to be Singers, what's it called? Whitetail Acres. I don't know if they still have
they
plants.
still
or
have
not.
tomato plants. I talked to them.
You may want to give it another try. You still have plenty of time.
Yeah, there's
right?
plenty of time to grow a tomato. If you have a tomato this tall, it will produce, and it'll produce like gangbusters.
Yeah.
So it may be start over again. Give it a shot. I wouldn't give up on the season at all.
Now, I was thinking maybe, there was some kind of disease in the ground because I planted the same place last year.
Yep.
And I had the same thing happen last year.
Yeah, never repeat. If it's bad, don't do it again.
Yeah.
You wanna definitely move to another
We've
area.
done that. We had to move where we planted things because they did like one spot where these, what were the moles that kept eating our zucchini? It would make one zucchini and the whole plant would die.
wither
Well,
and
we
die.
had to
Actually,
move it, the whole thing.
We found out it was the wasp that was laying nest into the stem. But if you had a problem last year, especially with tomatoes, that is a terrible place
Plant
to grow
somewhere
your
else
tomatoes.
then?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now
I
you
usually
can
plant
control it.
I usually sow some beans in those places, but I
Rotate around, and especially with
Yeah.
a legume like beans, it'll draw the nitrogen up. But you may have to spray that ground to get rid of that disease because we're not burning it off. Normally diseases are burnt off in a natural fashion after the spring, moist, unless people get things too wet too often. If they don't let them dry out, then the disease will carry through. But they usually burn off sometime in the middle of July or August. They're not burning off
I think
this year.
we've only had one day over 90
Yeah,
this
we
year.
haven't even had
That's
that.
unusual.
Unfortunately, I think you were correct in your assumption. You need to move your tomatoes somewhere else. And when you do that, you might even want to spray them the first two times when they're about a foot tall and when they're about 2.5 foot tall. Spray them twice next year with the organics, and then you will strengthen them against the diseases.
Yeah.
So, and that always works.
Doctor, I'm going to have you. I told the guy I wanted you to come out and look
I'll
at
be
my
more than happy to do that.
Leave
Certainly
him your
will.
name and information.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
I've always
much.
done that.
Okay,
All right,
he's
wonderful.
giving me the thumbs up behind the
I
window.
will
He's
see
got
you
it.
in the near future.
Okay, I appreciate that, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day.
You too. Bye.
We've got a tape back in there, an
Oh,
outtake,
okay.
an uptake,
We've
a
got
round take, or some kind of tape.
Let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
that kind of thing. Then we'll get back to what we're.
Don't give away
what
the
we're-
secret.
Oh yeah. Are you ready for the roll back there, gentlemen? Go to it.
Hello and welcome to the Garden Doctor's Backyard. We spend a lot of time out here, and we're going to have to spend a lot more time before our annual sale, which is this weekend coming up, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because there's a lot of weeds out here. We did not get to things as we should have this year. This in front of me right here is plumbago. Now, my wife said when she moved up here, she said, gee, I'd really like to have some plumbago. Well, the plumbago she was talking about was the bright blue annual that grows in Florida but will not grow up here. This is the plumbago ground cover. This did not do extremely well. It took a long time to establish it, but we finally got it growing. It will grow in the shade, but it likes the sun. As a matter of fact, it'll grow in very hot sun. And once we cut some of the limbs above this this planting right here off, this thing has done beautifully, and it'll bloom with a gorgeous blue blossom a little later on. Right over here is a bleeding heart. Now this will grow in the shade, and by the way, this is a show about shade. We're trying to give you some suggestions for shade plants. Hosta, always a good bet for shade. These are guacamole. A very good hosta. It's semi-resistant. We have a couple of, this one over here is not quite as large as the other one. I'm going to walk around over to the tree and show you some of the other plants that we have in our backyard that do grow in the shade. Now this environment that we've got here now is more sunny than it used to be. we had a large hackberry here, the one that's right behind me, and we took off 4 of the top limbs. And in removing those limbs, we've changed the lighting in here in the environment. This rose hated it here. It was not getting enough sunlight. It doesn't like competition from other plants. Roses want to be out by themselves, and they like to be fed, and they like a lot of nutrients, and they like full sun. Now, there are a few exceptions. Michelle's going to tell you about those later on in the show. Another beautiful hosta. This one's a semi-dwarf. Around it is a sedum. Sedum will grow in shade, but it's a full sun plant, and it's done so much better once the limbs were taken off. It really took off. Another plant, silver mound. I love it. About the 4th of July, we cut them off. We allow them to come back strong, nice, soft plants. If you don't cut them off, they'll blow. They get all seedy in the middle and break apart. And they don't do a very good job. But this plant didn't do all that well either until the limbs came off, and it's done much better. You can try to grow sun plants in the shade, but generally you'll be unsuccessful. This plant, the Corabelle, and there's a lot of Corabelles, loves the shade. Now, there are a few that'll grow in almost full light, but they really like morning light only if you're going to raise the Corabelles, and they do like the shade. Dead nettle is an exceptional plant for the shade. Really, really good plant. Strong, will grow underneath spruces and pines, which is very rare. Back in behind here, we have a geranium right behind the weed. Great big old pigweed there. We have a geranium. There's 5 or 6 varieties of that. You have to watch this, though, because it looks a whole lot like a weed, and my guys tend to pull it a lot. Now, we're going to move to another section of my backyard, so we're going to pause for a moment and be right back. Hello. Welcome to the Garden Doctor's backyard. We filmed the last time right here at this location, so I wanted to give you an update. Oh, this was about a month ago, 2 months ago, I guess. And this is my wife's attempt at decreasing some of the weeds. You can see that the straw actually did mat down, and it has prevented many of the weeds. Now, I mowed over a lot of them so that they would not cause problems and crowd into the squash here. You can see over in this row that it was not as effective because the straw by itself does not prevent the weeds as well as we would like it to. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what's in bloom this time of the year, so we're going to move around over here, and if you'll follow me a little bit, Forrest, we're going to walk by my wife's sunflower here, if you can show those. Sunflower is a vastly underused flower in the landscape. It's a fantastic plant. It's very easy to grow from seed. It grows very, very rapidly. These were planted late, actually, and look at the beautiful blossom on them. Now, we have some other sunflower miniatures in the back here that I'll show you back by her herb garden that do an extremely good job, and they only get this tall. But this time of the year, one of the plants that is so impressive to people is the hibiscus. Hibiscus is an outstanding plant, and it is hardy, even though it doesn't look like it's hardy, and we get asked the same question every year. If the plant is hardy, yes, it is. And there are new varieties coming out almost on a yearly basis. We get brand new varieties. Now, this one here is called Berrylicious. That's this one down here. Berrylicious. It's a new hybrid. And then this red one that's back here, which is a deeper red, that one is Midnight Marvel. And you have to look very carefully at the tag, though, because many of the hibiscus do require staking. This time of the year, you're going to find a lot of other things in bloom. One of them is, and unfortunately that blossom was broke off, but one of them is the coneflower. Now, coneflower also comes in an unbelievable rainbow of colors, and they have some new ones out that are really outstanding. So there's the different ones that you see here. Then, of course, there's there's Shasta Daisy mixed into the batch here. This is a different Shasta. It's a yellow one, and I can't think of the name of the darn thing right now. I was trying to pull that up for you out of the brain, but the brain is not functioning at the moment, so we've had that happen before. So over here we have Coreopsis. Coreopsis is being expanded into all different colors too. There's a bright red one right there in front of you, Forrest, that I've used in landscapes, and it's been very hardy and very successful. I had some problems with a couple of the Coreopsis. this, but these have worked very well. Okay, now back behind me is my wife's herb garden, if you can walk this way, Forrest. And in the herb garden, there are sunflowers over at the back side there. Those stocky, strong-looking plants will all be in bloom here shortly, and they'll have giant, beautiful blossoms on them, and they're very much underused. The bugs don't eat them up too bad, so it's a plant that I think is well worth looking at. All right, we're going to break here, go over to the other side of the garden. We'll be right back in a second. Okay, we're in another section of the garden. I'm going to show you the splashes down here, but first let me show you Kelsey McEwen here with this lovely flowers. These are the angel flowers, and these are beautiful blossoms. They do tend to get a little invasive. They will reseed themselves, so you have to watch out where they are, and you don't want to weed them. You want to be careful because they come up volunteer, and they do a beautiful job. But look at the blossom on that thing. Isn't that gorgeous? Almost as gorgeous as this young lady, who happens to be my son's friend, and he's behind the camera there. Okay, now down here we have something that works better than what my wife did at the other end. There's the cucumbers. They're growing. Look at this, almost a weed-free environment right here. It's because there's plastic down, straw on top. Then the vines grow on top of that, and it works very, very well. Holds the moisture in, keeps the weeds out, decreases the insect problems, and overall I can't find anything negative to say about it. Now we're going to move to another section of the garden, our backyard, and we're going to show you some other outstanding large blossoms. Nothing as outstanding as this young lady, though, so I can't improve on that. Thank you very much. Hey, I've got a nice little windscreen here of a pure white hibiscus. It's a beautiful hardy hibiscus. Only gets about 3 foot tall. That's an exceptional variety. People underuse gladiolus. We have gladiolus that I have planted now for 12 years that come back. They're hardy only because of the depth that we plant them and the fact that I mulch them in the winter. These are all came right through the winter. We did not replant any one of these varieties here. This one that's in front of me has been here for about 7 or 8 years. Now over to the side here is another plant that's in bloom right now, which is the tall phlox. You see them around town and you're not really sure what they are. It's the tall phlox, and they are a fabulous plant. They used to be real bad about disease. Now the new hybrids and everything, things have improved dramatically. In the background there you can probably see some of the daylilies that are still in bloom, and there's many other plants too. Here's a beautiful daylily that's just now coming back into blossom. It bloomed earlier in the year. I think this is ponderosa right here. There's a lot of daylilies, the double daylilies, that continue to bloom, and part of it has to do with the cold season that we're experiencing, the cold wet right here. This is a gorgeous double daylily, double blooming red. I think it's simply called double red. Thank you again for watching. We keep trying to end this, but there's so much blossom this time of the year. Blooms everywhere, blooms. Get out and find what you like. Find out what it is. Find out where it grows and add it to your yard. Thank you very much again. Bye.
I love that microphone
Hello.
cover. That was
How you like that
awesome.
microphone
That's
cover?
my seedlings from Jersey Shore.
And some of the hibiscus, and we have we probably have 9, 10,
I don't know.
11, 12.
They're so beautiful.
There's about a
Flowers
dozen
like this.
colors and varieties and heights, and you want to be very careful when you select a hibiscus, though, to select one that is the right one for the location you put it in. Some of them get 8, 9, 10 foot tall. Some of them they actually use for privacy screens. They're just monstrous, and there are new ones that are dwarfs and semi-dwarfs, and some that don't need staking, and some that have smaller blossom,
And you have the
larger
red
blossom.
foliage, the red and green leaves,
Got
and the
all
others are just green.
kinds of opportunities, and they came through the winter beautifully. So, as did my glads, and everybody says, "Oh, glads, you got to dig them up every year." No, you don't.
Oh, I cut some, put them in a vase. They were gorgeous, and
You
the
have to
sunflowers.
plant your glads much deeper than they recommend, because if you plant them shallow, they're going to freeze out every year if you do. So go down much deeper than they recommend. I go down about a foot. 10 to 14 inches, and space your glads out. Make sure that you give them bone meal every year. Fertilize them.
I hate planting bulbs more than anything
Yep.
in the world, but I love those blossoms. They are gorgeous.
Yeah, and I've got quite a few batches of them around town, and they do come back if you plant them deeply. Now, I was afraid they would not come back this winter. I want to remind everybody before I forget that during the live show only, if you want to have a free consultation We'll go over your whole yard. Whatever you dream up, we'll try to design it in and help you with that. No charge, no obligation. I do not want the job. I simply am doing it to assist you. Leave your name and number, and I will get to you now. And I apologize to the people I didn't get to, but I had some health issues. We had questions.
Yes, I have a list actually from emails and people who have stopped on the side of the road and other things. One of them, as far as vegetable gardens.
I didn't finish with the zucchini.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Zucchini are the same color as the foliage. And this black color, and also there's some yellows. This color will throw you off.
I totally missed it. How do you miss a zucchini
It
this
just
big?
looks like the foliage. So you have to literally feel around and pull the leaves apart.
But how fast do they grow? It seems like they do grow. If you blink,
I was watching them, and I did grow one that was 5 pounds in 8 days from one that was about like this.
Right,
so,
it's fast.
And I think it had to do with
Is
the
it
amount
water
of water that
content?
was available and the fact that we mulch and that we fertilize. So, yeah, they grow pretty darn fast. It's very important. That was another question down in your
that
letter.
was a question. Is it really important to keep veggies like zooks and cukes picked from the vine?
This lady was hollering this question across some carts and some other people in between us.
And you said yes.
And it is important. Mother Nature produces fruit that encases in some fashion seeds. And the fruit the purpose of it is to become food for that seed, to provide it with some nutrients back into the soil, and then to have the seed in the center. And so once Mother Nature has done that, and it comes to maturity, fully grown, and it's still on the vine, then the plant has done what it's supposed to do. So it can shut down. So if you continue to pick and clean, then you will continue to get more and more and more now until the plant burns itself out.
And my question after that was then, is it true that if you keep cutting the blooms from a flowering plant, will it produce more and more?
Yes, there are many that will benefit from what's called deadheading. There are others that have been hybrid, like the wave petunia. That's one of the first to come out that you used to have to pick every one of those blossoms in order to get it to produce more.
That.
Oh my gosh, it was tedious. And we used to do it when I did the zoo in Kings Island and so forth.
Really?
We had these big bats out there, and we would go out with us. We would go out there and snip them.
What a nightmare.
Yes, it was.
So the wave petunias now, you never touch them, and they just keep going and going and going.
They just keep right on going. They're just a wave, yeah. And most of the new hybrids, you don't have to.
Well, like the double knockout roses, you don't have to cut those roses off like you used to.
Cut the roses and at exactly the right angle, and then take a wax off a candle and seal it. It's really a good idea to do that also, because you don't want to leave that hole open for an insect.
But if you cut it at a slant anyway, the water's not going to
it's still hollow on the inside.
Oh, so. Yes, it is.
Other question.
Okay, my hydrangea is not blue anymore, and the leaves are turning yellow. What do I do?
Aluminum sulfate controls the color of the blue. Aluminum sulfate is the blue color. You can apply that, but if you have yellowing foliage, that's a whole different program. My wife was talking about myrrh acid earlier. It is an acid-loving plant, the hydrangea is, so myrrh acid is of benefit to it, but the yellowing leaves are from lack of iron or the inability of the plant to convert the iron that is in the soil. So it needs some sort of a catalyst, or it needs the iron provided in a different form. She also was asking about nails.
Yeah, it seems like I heard my mother talking about either in her garden or on her mother's farm in Tennessee about putting railroad spikes or something in the soil.
Well, it used to be. Harry Brandley and I were having coffee one day, and he said, you know, when I first started planting dogwoods and oaks, pin oaks in this area, that people would provide me with a horseshoe to put under it. And I said, oh, for good luck? He said, no, for the iron. I had no idea. And they also would go out around the perimeter of the tree and spade some holes up and bury some nails in there. And I have found those deteriorating iron nails.
And I found horseshoes too.
Well, the horseshoes I think were slung from the horses. But I don't think anybody put those down there on purpose. But The iron provides the iron for the pin oak, and you see a lot of oaks and there are regions out here that are iron deficient. There are other regions where I have grown pin oaks and they're gorgeous, requiring absolutely nothing. But iron is for the yellowing leaves, aluminum sulfate is for
the blue. Okay.
And then miracid is because it's an acid-loving plant.
Okay, I had a question from somebody. What is the plant that grows in Tennessee and Kentucky and it blooms this time of year and is not the turtle plant? I don't know.
It is the crepe myrtle.
Oh, you do know.
And it's a shrub and a tree. It's a beautiful plant, and only recently have they hybrid some that will grow in this area. But there is also a turtle plant, a turtle head plant.
Right,
yes.
I have that.
Beautiful little thing, often pulled as a weed because it
does
looks like
look
a weed
when it's young.
But it's a beautiful. It is a turtle head when it's in bloom. So it's probably the plant that you're talking about is crepe myrtle. Now, also, it could be mountain laurel, but mountain laurel is actually a little bit earlier, and rhododendron is much earlier. So I don't think it's any of those. I think it's crepe myrtle.
Okay, here's a question. I have a stone walkway, and some of the stones are crumbling. Did I get bad stone, or what is happening?
Yes, you probably got the stone that is the softer stone that is on the surface of a stone room. And amazing, I was quite impressed to find out that the stone is actually Mother Nature breaks it into blocks, into rooms.
Yes.
And there's
and
an
layers
end.
and pages and books. Yes.
It's just amazing. And some of those layers are not necessarily formed the same way with as much pressure. And the deeper you get, probably generally the harder it is. So yeah, you could have some stone that is softer. Now, if it's porous, it may be a lack of maintenance that caused this problem. You really should seal the porous rock, even though it's laying in your walkways or whatever. You should put a sealer on there to protect the concrete and to protect the stone. It won't make it slippery if you use the right product, and there's many of them out there for sealing that, and you get a lot more life out of the whole entire thing.
Okay, here's a question I think I know the answer to. What are the plants growing beside the driveway of a house on Shawnee Place down the street from the high school greenhouse?
And what would that be?
I know it's the hardy hibiscus. It's got to be over at Bud's house, right? He's on Shawnee, isn't
Bud
he?
Whipple's, yes.
Okay.
We first started our experiment with hibiscus in Bud Whipple's yard. And in Hollingsworth Yard, and out at the Hanson Farm. And those were the very, very first places in Connorsville that I got these hibiscus from. I ordered them out of a greenhouse or a nursery in Tennessee. They came in, they didn't do so well. We planted a second trial, and this time I put 3 in each location, and they did amazing. 3 different ones. Now, 2 out of the 3 grew, and the other one didn't. Then I did another one, and another one. And they still seem to fascinate people, and people still don't believe that they're hardy.
I
But
know,
they are.
and they're unbelievably beautiful.
And actually, he has, I believe, 9 colors. And if you really want to see a thing of beauty, you see Bud out there in the front yard. Ask him to see his backyard.
Yeah, they're
because,
gorgeous. I know.
Waterfalls, and he just loves
awesome.
his backyard, and he loves people to come visit. And we're very sorry to hear that his wife is having some health issues. And she used to be the Avon representative of the
Yes, she
whole
was.
area around here. And
Mary,
so
right?
all of you people, Mary, that know her from Avon, give her a jingle or stop by and say hi, and because her travels are very limited right now.
You got time for another?
Yep.
Okay, the cherry tomatoes I grew this year are not near as sweet as the ones I grew last year. Why?
Probably variety. There's
Because we grow the one that's called Sweet 100. That's actually
Yes.
the name of it, and they are sweet.
There are other ones that are called sweet cherry, and they have a thicker skin. They're not as sweet, but that cherry sugar content is higher.
They're good.
Now, the yellows tend to have less acid, so they taste sweeter. But in this case, this is a true red, and they have hybrid it so that it is has the benefit of the yellow, but still has the acid. So it's very sweet. Sweet 100s. Try that next year.
And then also, you plant basil by our tomatoes, and
important.
I didn't know if
Yeah.
that was just to
You know
have
what?
the
We're
herb
getting short
or
of time. What
okay.
is all of the compatible plants for tomatoes?
Oh,
now
the
these are plants that if you grow them with the tomato, then the tomato really benefits from it.
Well, it says here on this list, asparagus, basil is on here, bee balm, carrots, celery, chives, garlic, lemon balm, onions, marigolds, which we knew that. I knew that. Mint, nasturtium, I don't know that word.
Nasturtium, it's a
Okay.
blossom flower.
Parsley, peas, and sage. And then it says the plants that are not compatible with tomatoes are cabbage, cauliflower, corn, dill, fennel, kohlrabi, and potato. So you have all these compatible plantings, but there were some that really shocked me. But basil with the tomatoes is
Basil
one thing
does
that makes
more
them
than
sweet.
just is more than just a friend to a tomato. It actually sweetens the tomato, and it improves the flavor, I think, substantially. And I also grow the marigolds around there to reduce the insects. And the lemon balm has a benefit. I don't think it's in pollination. I just think it's in association, and I'm not sure the mechanism how that works.
Well, I just love the whole idea of companion planting, and there's more than one reason, just that, you know.
But there are plants that hate each other.
Well, and
if
I
you
was
put 'em
very
close,
shocked.
which we did.
Look at this. It says broccoli should not be planted near lettuce. Now, what did we plant?
And guess
Our cold
what I
crops.
did?
Broccoli, lettuce, cauliflower. Okay.
And my lettuce bolted on me this year.
yeah.
And
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, different things, just like beans or beets. I did not know should not be near pole beans.
Yeah, I had no
I
idea.
did not know that.
No idea. I plant pole beans with corn. That's the
But there was
traditional.
two sites that also the stuff I looked up was conflicting.
Yeah,
as well.
and that's an interesting point too, because from different sources with different soil types and with different types, because not all bee balm is created equal.
Well, and this paper says beans are compatible with sunflower. This site says beans are foes with sunflower. I don't get that.
And again, different types of beans. They're
And
not,
just because it's
they're
on
not
the internet
specific.
doesn't make it true. There you go.
This is the old farmer's almanac.
Oh,
right
well, that's
here now.
got to be true.
Yeah,
I mean,
if it's in there, it has to be right.
And what do you do when you call it when worms take over the world, honey?
When worms take over the world.
Yes, global worming. One of your favorite topics that we only have 3 minutes left and you
Yes.
don't get to get on a roll about.
Give me another one. I like that. Go ahead.
Oh,
Leave 'em
what
smiling.
insect is musical?
I don't know.
A humbug.
I was going to say a bean beetle, but because
What?
of eating the beans.
What do you call a country where the people drive only pink cars?
I don't have a clue.
A pink carnation.
Oh, for Christ. Your
All right,
father
I
would be so
know.
proud.
I'm not going to tell him.
We want to thank you all for watching the show, for
Yes,
all of your
thank you.
comments and all of your support. You're always asking us about our health and so forth. We still get people asking about Tiny and saying how sorry they are that she's no longer
Me
with
too.
us, and we miss her as well.
It's coming
And,
up on a year already since we lost her.
There's a lot of you out there. I've worked for a lot of people that are getting a bit long in the tooth, as they say. And
Well, you're not getting any younger, you know.
hey, well, I can feel that here recently, and I hope that you all are as in good a shape as you possibly can.
all you
And
can
I
do.
have noticed that gardeners live better, they live healthier, and they live longer. And
Gardening is
so-
therapy. You don't need to
gardening
shrink. You
is
just
a
go out and work in the
wonderful,
garden. That's right.
wonderful thing. And when I ask people that make that 100 mark, make it to 100 years old, I would say that about 90% of them were gardeners. That they worked with the plants, they worked with the soil.
Get
they
your
worked
hands dirty and
Yeah.
the dirt feels good.
And it's true that there's great peace in your
It is. That's all you're
in the
thinking
garden.
about.
It's just an amazing, and it's a real pleasure and an honor for me to work in so many yards and with so many people. There's a lot of great people in Connersville.
Yes, there is.
And I want to shout out to all of those people that I've worked for that have supported us over the years and helped us out. And I hope we have returned the favor and given you good quality service. Been a little slow of late because I only had one wing, and I am retired,
I
but-
know. And you
Yeah.
know what I think we should do when we get out of here tonight? Let's go down to the fair, pick up the boys, and get one of those sausages with peppers and onions, or maybe a walleye sandwich.
Walleye sandwich. I know the guy that does the walleye
Let's go
sandwich. And
to
I
the
got to
fair.
stop by the booth I got to stop
Yeah,
by and
the
say hi
radio
to
station booth.
Mike, Peacock, and the
Yeah,
gang
let's
down
do
there.
that.
So,
We're
all
on
right,
our way.
We're on our way to the fair, so look for us down there. And again, we thank you very much for watching the show and all of your support.
Hi, Dad.
Bye now.
The Garden Doctor.